Over time, oil can build up on the inside of the detector sample chamber. If allowed to continue, it could eventually prevent the detector detecting oil mist, and failing to give an alarm. To prevent this from occurring, the system monitors the level of oil contamination in each detector, and indicates a fault, if the level of contamination becomes unacceptable. At this point, the detector sample chamber should be cleaned, to return it to normal operation. As with all faults, if a contamination fault does occur, it will be visually indicated on the remote display, and signaled to the alarm management system, via the control unit fault relay. In this case, a fault is being indicated on engine 2. To obtain further details of the fault, press the engine button, to display the individual engine. The display changes to show details of the detectors connected to the engine. In this case, a fault is being indicated on detector 2. To obtain further details of the fault, press the detector button, to display the individual detector. The display changes to show details of the individual detector. In this case, an LED fault is being indicated on detector 2. This means that the sample chamber of detector 2 has become contaminated with oil, and requires cleaning. To clean the detector, the head must be removed from the detector base. This should not be done while the engine is running. Before removing the detector head, log in to the engineer's level menus. Press the menu button to bring up the detector menus, and isolate the detector. This will stop any accidental alarms, or faults occurring when the detector head is removed from the base. The detector screen now shows the detector is isolated. Press the menu button again, to bring up the detector menus, and press the Read Params button. This provides details of the detector's internal settings. In the list of parameters, the low contamination value indicates the level at which a fault is indicated. You will notice, in this case, the current contamination value is below the low contamination value, which is why a fault is being indicated. Time to go to the engine and clean the detector. On the engine's control unit, the common fault LED will be flashing, indicating the fault is on that engine, and the detector fault LED will be on constant, indicating the detector is isolated. The detector will also have its yellow fault LED on. Firstly, disconnect the detector cable from the detector. Although the detector is isolated, it can still cause a backup alarm when the detector head is removed from the base. Remove the head by undoing the 2 Allen head screws in the base. With the detector head removed, check the detector base. Excess oil in the base can be wiped off. Oil in the inlet, or outlet holes, can be cleaned by blowing compressed air down the holes. The presence of foam, or other deposits in the base, could indicate water or other contaminants in the engine's oil, which may require further investigation. To clean the detector, you will require the foam buds, and glass cleaner supplied in the detector service kit. A smaller bottle of glass cleaner is supplied in the service kit than the one shown here. To clean the detector sample chamber, you need to move the fan. The easiest way is to place your hand over the fan. This prevents the fan retaining plug being lost. Then ease up the fan to release the retaining plug. Keep the retaining plug in a safe place, as it is easy to lose. Lift the fan off the pegs and remove the 4 springs. Again, keep these in a safe place. You can now see inside the sample chamber. Apply a small amount of glass cleaner to a foam bud. Insert the foam bud into the sample chamber, to clean the sides, and the small hole at the end of the chamber. Depending on the amount of oil in the sample chamber, it may be necessary to use a number of foam buds, to clean the detector. When the detector is clean, replace the springs and the fan. The detector can now be fitted back on the base, and the detector cable reconnected. With the detector connected, return to the remote display. Navigate to the detector, and log in to the engineer's level. Select Read Params from the detector menu. If the detector is fully cleaned, and the detector is at room temperature, the current contamination level should be within 20% of the original contamination value, or in other words, more than 80% of the original value. For this detector, the original contamination value is shown as 3872. If it is fully cleaned, the current contamination value should be above 80% of 3872. Which is 3098. As the current contamination value is 4091, this detector has been fully cleaned, and is now operating normally. If the current contamination value is less than 80% of the original contamination value, the detector should be cleaned a second time, using the same procedure. If after the second cleaning, the current contamination value is still less than 80% of the original contamination value, the detector should be replaced. As a final check, an optics test should be performed on the engine. Again, if the detector fails the test, it should be cleaned a second time, then retested, and replace if it fails the retest. If all of the tests are passed, log out of engineer's level, and return the system to normal operation.